Hello there, and welcome to my channel Novice Modelling in the Midlife Crisis. My name is Andy, and today I'm going to do you a kit review on my special hobby, MESSERSCHMITT ME264 SH72025, which is the rather famous and unsuccessful MESSERSCHMITT AMERIKA bomber. Now, this particular kit is, quite honest with you, it's one of my favourite kits I actually have from my rather mountainous collection. And I purchased it about 3 months ago, I think. The guy that was selling it wanted 100 quid for it. I put a cheeky bid of 75, and we eventually agreed at 90. These kits are kind of hard to get hold of, and at the time the sort of going price seemed to be about £130, so I thought I got myself a good deal. If you have a look on eBay at the moment, today, there are two available, one which is £179.50 and one which is £153.89, both in Germany and costing between £43 and £51 for the postage. So, you know, bearing that in mind, this seems like a pretty good deal. However, about a month or so ago, one of these sold for £50 plus £4 postage in the UK. So it kind of is a good way to show the sort of vagaries of buying kits and the sort of the ups and downs of how much these things are worth, because, you know, on a good day you can pick one up for 50. I got this one for 90, and if you're really desperate to get hold of this, you could end up paying sort of £200 with the postage. Kind of bonkers, but there we go. So I'm just going to read out the information that Special Hobby provide, and I'll just spread some of these parts out so you can have a quick look. It's kind of long, but it's kind of interesting. So although there was no official requirement for an Amerika bomber, as ME264 became unofficially known, the influential Willy Messerschmitt managed to obtain an order to construct 3 prototypes on a low priority basis. And work began at Novice near Ulm in 1941. In December 1942, the first prototype, the ME264 V1 RE+EN, made its first flight. The machine was considered an early aerodynamic test aircraft, and its construction had been accelerated by using 4 Junkers Umo 211J-1 liquid-cooled engines, complete with Ju-88 A4 type nacelles and radiators. The ME264 was a very clean all-metal aircraft with a cigar-shaped circular section monocoque and highly aspect ratio finely tapered wings. By the time the ME264 V1 was flying, the United States declared war on Germany, and the RLM's technical department looked more carefully into the requirements of an Amerika bomber, with the result that a larger 6-engined aircraft with greater bomb load was called for. The ME264 was not, however, abandoned, and the 2 pending prototypes were ordered to be completed as development prototypes for the ME264A, ultra-long range reconnaissance aircraft. The extensive redesign needed for the ME264A was not completed until March 1943. Although studies were made to use 4 Daimler-Benz DB603 or 4 Germo 213 engines, the final choice was for 4 1,700 horsepower BMW 801G 14-cylinder radial engines. The final modification for the ME264 was an increase in span from the 127 foot of the V1 prototype to 141 foot by fitting new wingtips. Late in 1943, the ME262 V2 was prepared for, that's a typo, it should be 264 V2, was prepared for its first ground tests when it was destroyed in an Allied bombing raid. Work continued on the ME264 V3, which was intended as a complete production prototype for the A series. In the meantime, the ME264 V1 was put into service with Transport Staffel 5, but it's doubtful whether the aircraft did much more than stand idle. By the end of 1944, in view of the extensive use of duralanium in this large aircraft and the shortage of such material, the program was shut down, and the ME264 V3 was probably never completed. So, I mean, I'd highly recommend you sort of go online on YouTube or on Wikipedia and just kind of read up on this, because it's quite a fascinating aircraft, and the later developments of potential Amerika bombers by other German manufacturers is also quite a fascinating subject as well. So there you go, that's my take on it. I think it's an interesting subject, and it's quite an interesting looking plane, which I have compared visually to the B-29 bomber, which I just completed about a week or so ago. They do look quite similar, but size-wise, there's some differences and some very interesting similarities. So the first sprue, oh, I'm going to just say this kit is not for novices. There's no way I'm going to be attempting to do this anytime soon because it looks to be quite difficult. So the first sprue we're going to look at is this one, which has the fuselage on it. And as you can see, it's probably the sort of standard sort of fuselage size for a World War II era bomber. I've compared it to a Lancaster that I have, and it's kind of similar. I compared it to the B-29, and the B-29 is about that much bigger. It's really, you know, the B-29 is huge. This is kind of average. We get 2 sections of the wings here, which we have to glue together. The other 2 have come off the sprue because this is quite an old kit. We also have a variety of other items here, which these ones, I think this is going to be the undercarriage doors. Not too sure what that is, and obviously I have no idea what these smaller parts are. This circular section, I believe, is going to go in here as some sort of support, basically. So there we are. As far as panel lines and everything is, this has all got panel lines. There is a rather irritating sort of looking imperfection here, which is probably going to need sanding out a bit. The perfection isn't on there, but there does appear to be some interesting marks on the fuselage there. So I'm not quite sure whether they're parts or whether that is something actually wrong with the moulding. You can see this panel line here sort of fades in and out as well. So it is, you know, it's not a perfect kit, and I don't think it's a very good representation of what Special Hobby do now. This is, I forgot to actually check out how old this one is, but it's a good sort of 15-20 years old, and Special Hobby do actually make some really nice kits now. The wings, which as we can see are rather large. I actually compared these to the B-29 that I've just completed, and they're actually about 1 centimetre longer. So if you're planning on spending a huge amount of money on buying one of these, you need to think about where you're going to store it. Here we have the tailplane sections. We have the front wheel just there, and here we have the 2 undercarriage wheels for the wings. Not much detail going on here, kind of a bit rough and ready, need a bit of attention. There's no sort of tyre grips or anything like that, they're just basically smooth. But again, the panel lines on this are quite nice. You can see some sort of roughness to the edge of the wing here, which is going to need a bit of attention. And here where the cells are going to join the engines as well, that's going to need. So this is, you know, it needs a careful hand to get a good finish on this. The other thing that I have noticed to my concern is obviously the wing here doesn't appear to have any sort of mounting point for it to attach to the actual fuselage. That's actually the wrong way around, but it doesn't really matter. Any mounting point to the fuselage, and as you can see, it doesn't really fit great. So again, it needs attention, and it needs someone with a bit more experience than I've actually got at the moment. Consequently, I'm not going to be building this anytime soon. This is the underside of the wing. Obviously, we have this hole here. That's for our undercarriage. We have some parts of the engine nacelles here, here, and here, and here, and I'm not too sure what those parts are. So that's basically the completing part of the wing. We have our very long engine nacelles here, and we have our propeller blades, which again don't look very sharp. They kind of look as though they need a bit of attention to them. I'm not too sure what these parts are. I think they go on the end here. So these are basically the basic parts that you get. You then get a load of rather nice, I suppose, resin parts to play with as well. Now these ones here, these kind of confused me at first, but it's actually quite obvious what they are. They're the bays for the undercarriage, and as we can see, they're kind of quite nicely detailed in there. Got some sort of mechanical work. There is a sort of pin mark here, which is obviously going to need a bit of attention, but that's what those 2 pieces are. We have 4 propeller spinners, with the holes for our propeller blades. It's going to be interesting getting those all perfectly lined up, I assume. We have 2 of these. These are the actual fronts of the engines, I suppose. We're going to have fun cutting those out. Again, this is cutting resin parts. It's not something I've tried yet, so it does appear they need a bit of attention here. You can see they're a bit sort of rough. This piece here is the cockpit rear wall. I'm assuming this doorway may need to be trimmed out, I'm guessing, but there's some nice detail on some of the actual inner workings of the cockpit there. This bit is the cockpit floor. See the rails for the pilot seats and a range of controls down the center. All looks kind of nice, I must admit. So I'm guessing that, you know, they could get better detail with resin. Again, this piece looks like another part of the inner cockpit. Not too sure whether I have to trim this down. I'm guessing this has to be trimmed quite severely from this mount here. It's all quite nicely detailed. Gotta be honest, no idea what these pieces are. All I know is that I definitely don't want to lose them. I have a pilot seat. No idea what this piece is. Just don't know. And this piece here, which I don't know what that is either. So I'm kind of concerned that I only seem to have 1 pilot seat, but if there's one missing or whatever, I'm sure I can find a seat from... Oh no, there's 2. There we go. I've got 2 seats. There we go. 2 seats, and you can see they've actually got lap belts on them as well. That's kind of nice. I'm glad I've got 2. We then move on to this awful looking piece of thing, which is our flexible plastic cockpit cover. And as we can see, this one's got a great big imperfection right across it. So I'm guessing they provided 2 basically for practice, because most people, well, I've dealt with one of these on a Ventura Spitfire and it was a nightmare. But this is obviously slightly more problematic because the practice one is dead. But we'll practice on that. We'll try putting it together and we'll see what happens, and then we'll use this one here as our correct one. And as you can see, obviously this needs painting and the 2 pieces sticking and taping, cutting apart and taping. And then we move on to this decal sheet, which is just some standard decals, I suppose. ENRE, don't know. And standard German crosses and the little naughty crosses here as well. So that basically completes our little kit review for this rather nice, kind of expensive kit that I have, which I seem to have got a reasonable-ish price. I mean, I think the people asking 150 quid are barking up the wrong tree, and I think the guy that paid 50 quid is quite lucky, to be honest with you. But there we go. It is available. You can still get it, and if you want it, I'm pretty sure this is pretty much the only ME264 that you can actually buy. I might be wrong. If I am wrong, put me in the direction of another kit that is depicting the same plane. There won't be many. So please do have a look at some of my other kit reviews. My channel is coming up to 6 months old on August the 17th. So like I may have said, I'm actually doing these kit reviews as these are some of my favourite kits I have in my stash. I've done the German leaders car by ICM, the Mercedes 770, and the ICM leaders car, which is a Packard 12 with the Stalin figures. And I'm going to be doing a few more rather sort of nice-ish kits over the next few days, and then I'll do something slightly different on the 17th of August, which is my 6 months here on YouTube. So thanks very much for tuning in. Like I say, please do like and subscribe and join me for my novice model building ride. And sometime in the next 8 years, I promise you, I'll build this. Be seeing you.